Commanders. Either last year or 2 years ago, they finally moved on from him. But, yeah, Derek Mason, now the head coach at Middle Tennessee State.
So last night, late in the game, I was kind of I was watching the baseball, and then I went over to the football game, and, they panned around like, that looks like Derek Mason.
Yep.
And I didn't think anything of, kind of was like, thought about looking it up. And then probably about 2 minutes later, they started talking about Derek Mason. I was like, I knew that was Derek Mason. Did not know he was the coach. And he's not doing well.
No, they're off to they were 1-4 going into that game last night, so not off to a great start this year. I mean, it makes sense considering the fact that, he was at Vanderbilt, so he already has connections and ties to the middle of Tennessee, being in Nashville. And, if he wasn't going to land a job as a defensive coordinator somewhere, it makes sense that he would take a job like that. But, that's a tough place to win, unfortunately, and he's learning that the hard way.
Yeah, no, it's a very, very tough place to win. He was announced back in 2023 as their head coach, and you just mentioned it, and after last night's loss, 4-14 as their head coach. Because, they scan over to him, and I'm like, that's actually a good fit for him, like a lower level. You mentioned it. He had been in the state of Tennessee. He's familiar with it, probably knows. I was like, that's probably not a bad fit. He kind of, I didn't think he was an awful coach at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, we all know what Vanderbilt is, which makes what Clark Lee is doing even better.
Sure.
And so then about 2 minutes later, like, he's 4-13. I was like, oh my goodness! And they missed a field goal last night to win it, and so now he's 4-14. But that was last night. That was all last night. And yes, now I think you're right. As you learned me, I think we are officially into the weekend now. Yeah,
and look, fun weekend ahead. Obviously, got more playoff baseball, going on today. Got a fun weekend of. Great slate of college football for Week 7, NFL stuff. So, again, I go back, October's the best month of the sports calendar, and we're certainly feeling that right now. And, yesterday, especially with all 4 series going at not the same time, but throughout the entire day, it was tough to keep up with all of it at times. It was a lot of fun. And I know just right now you've got a lot of the opening kind of week taking place of the NHL, too, and I do get into the NHL. The Vegas Knights got going late last night. I had that on. The Washington Capitals and OV got going yesterday against Boston Bruins. They got beat. So you're right. You're 100% right. There was a lot going on yesterday, and there'll be plenty more going on today. As coming up at about 6 o'clock this afternoon, the Phillies held on, and now the Phillies at least that's all you can do, right? And it's them and the Cubs. That's all you can do. Win in advance, and then win game, in this case, game 4, and get it to an elimination game, and anything can happen. Yeah, obviously, Kyle Schwarber, a couple phenomenal home runs. One of them, I think, is still flying through the air as of right now to keep yourself alive.
Did it leave the park?
I thought it did.
There was a debate. Did you see the debate about that last night? A lot of people.
It looked to me like it left the park. I didn't, and it's night, so it's kind of hard to tell. But from what I saw, I thought it did. At least.
All right, because the first thing is that they thought it left the park. If you don't know what we're talking about, Kyle Schwarber hit another monstrous home run, and there was a debate. I think it would have been like something like the 13th baseball to leave the park if he'd have hit it. It was something ridiculous like that. And there were people that were like, oh, man. And then later on, some people were going, no, it landed kind of in the top row or whatever, didn't make it out of the park.
It all counts the same at the end of the day, which is the most important thing.
It did. And then they get the win. That's all you got to do. And they'll be back in action tonight at 6 o'clock on TBS. A little surprised that you've got these flipped the way they do.
We were talking about that earlier. That's weird because, considering the fact you have one game on the West Coast right now, that's been the nightcap. Makes sense, 9 o'clock start. So, you have them with the quicker turnaround, then Brewers and Cubs playing the late game tonight. That is kind of odd.
I don't know. I don't know if there was some kind of odd scheduling that they already had that in place. But, tonight, Phillies or this afternoon, Phillies, Dodgers at 6 o'clock, and Milwaukee Cubs at 9 o'clock. And then tomorrow night, you get what's going to be a really fun game between Detroit and Seattle. It looked like Seattle was going to close that out yesterday. They go up 3-0, and then the Detroit Bats absolutely woke up and began to dominate.
Yeah, and obviously, again, backs up against the wall there for the Tigers needing to get that one. And obviously, you're traveling back to Seattle for game number 5. But this has been such a back-and-forth series. Look at how those first 2 games played out where the margins were so thin. And, they were able to pour on those, 7 runs over the course of the 5th and 6th innings there to be able to pull away from them. But, this has been, I'd say, the funnest series to watch because it hasn't really been, one-sided up to this point.
And for those of you who haven't paid attention, which, you talked about it, if you're a Braves fan, you maybe haven't been watching the Detroit Tigers, maybe don't keep up with the American League. Game 5 tomorrow night, the elimination game, will feature Tyreek Skubal, who is maybe the best pitcher in Major League Baseball, and if he's not the best, he's in the conversation for it.
And that was kind of the fear when it came to the Mariners of not wanting to get this thing to a 5th game, knowing you're going to have to see him and deal with him. Now, again, it's a home game for the Mariners, so there's an advantage there, but that guy's phenomenal, and it's going to be hard-pressed to be able to score runs on him.
Now, for whatever reason, the Mariners have had success against him this year, and so we'll see. So there's a little Major League Baseball talk more about that. Of course, the Yankees, they finally get eliminated last night. They go out with a whimper, and I didn't realize it, 16 years without a World Series for the Yankees. And, I don't know why, but the 20 number, like, all of a sudden I was like, man, they're not far away from not winning one in 20 years. That's absolutely crazy. And then I thought about the Cowboys last night, and it kind of going over some other organizations.
And I guess when you talk about teams like that, and I know the Lakers obviously have a more recent NBA title, but you always kind of think like when the teams that are talked about as much as those are always in that championship picture. And, the Yankees obviously played for the World Series last year, coming up short to the Dodgers, but it is kind of crazy. Like, man, it has been. If you were born the year that the Yankees last won the World Series, you are able to drive now. You know what I mean? Like, it's been that long. Our Jack, our resident Yankees fan, asked him this morning, like, how old were you when they won that last World Series? He said 9. He's like, I didn't really appreciate it at the time because I was still young. And he's like, a couple years later is when I kind of really understood everything and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's been a while. And, again, the Yankees always a good team, always have, some of the best payroll and the best players. But, that drought is getting pretty long now.
There's an issue in that organization right now. They just don't have it to get over. I was kind of watching last night. You got Aaron Judge, and you got Stanton. You got some good players, but they just don't have whatever it is. That thing. When I say whatever it is, literally, it's called it, but they don't have it to get right now over the hump.
Well, and last night was the Schlittler going 6 1/3. That was the deepest anybody had gone for all of their starters through those 4 games. Everybody else got bounced by the time they got into their 3rd inning there. So you didn't have good starting pitching against a very high profile, prolific offensive team in Toronto. But when you don't have good starting pitching and can't get guys that can go deep in that, you're taxing your bullpen, using up a lot of arms, and that certainly hurt them.
So, that last night. Also last night, again, you had a lot going on. College football. You had Major League Baseball. Again, I mentioned the NHL. You also had NBA is cranking up. It's preseason. And because I did want to mention this, just to give him a shout out. Colin Murray Boyles with a nice little start last night.
Yep. So, that's what the opening games are 2-3 weeks away now. About 2 weeks away.
I'm blanking off. So it's either 21st or the 20th. It might be the 21st because it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's either that or a Thursday on the 23rd, and it might be the 20th. But anyway, bottom line is Colin Murray Boyles last night makes his, I believe, what you would I don't know how you want to do this. Maybe because he's got about 2 of these. You got the Summer League debut, where he wasn't bad, and then you get the preseason debut, and then last night he makes his debut and solid little overall performance.
Also, shout out Asia Wilson hitting the game-winning shot for the Aces last night to take the 3-0 series lead over the Mercury there in the WNBA Finals. So
a lot going on last night. Today, we got plenty going on. We're going to get back into South Carolina and LSU. Take a deep view of LSU and their quarterback situation. There's a little bit more going on there than's kind of been discussed. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit coming up this hour. Also, the Bill Belichick situation is raging out of control, and it doesn't look like he's going to make it through another 2 weeks.
No, and look, I know people are probably listening like, would you please stop talking about it? And it's not like we're digging for content here. There are headlines coming out every single day.
If you're not paying attention, things are exploding now. This isn't, oh, ha, 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 Belichick and the girl, this is all falling apart. Like, there are now things out there. There's NCAA infractions.
The coaches have got suspended.
There are issues in the like, you are having legitimate reporting on massive issues in Chapel Hill. A huge divide in the locker room, a huge divide between the parents of players and the coaching staff. You have Michael Lombardi, this GM, who is now like widely hated across campus. It is not just ha ha ha. Bill Belichick has this girlfriend and she's trying to run everything, and man, that's a funny little story, and we'll see what happens. This is now like a football program that is completely steered out of control and is not only in the ditch, but is driving down the ditch for a canyon of a ditch.
Yeah, and this was obviously a risk, hiring somebody that had never been in college football before to try and turn your program around after the end of the Mac Brown era did not go very well, obviously, and we'll get into the specifics a little bit later on in the hour. I wonder how much this is going to derail the program going forward if this is a short-term thing with Bill Belichick.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Also, yesterday, Jeremiah Donati joining Jay Phillips and Terry Ford on the postgame show. We'll get into some of what he had to say. Jeremiah Donati might have taken on the biggest challenge any administrator at the University of South Carolina has ever taken on.
Yeah.
The traffic situation around Williams-Brice Stadium during a football game. We'll get to that and plus some other things. He said I was really more fascinated in his talk and discussion of the cancellation of the Miami game and a few things there. So we've got a lot to get to. But when we come back, get the show really going, we'll look at the South Carolina LSU game. We'll give you a little bit of a breakdown on Garrett Nussmeier and a backup quarterback you might want to be a little aware of on Saturday night. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain David Dare. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. 30 years, a long, long time, but that proven history is your assurance that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. But most importantly, they're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. Now, one of the reasons they've been in business for over 30 years and being the leader is because of the way they treat their customers. Mid-State Roofing is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give them a phone call after hours, you'll speak with an on-call technician. You give them a phone call during hours, a Mid-State Roofing staff member, and they'll help set you up with a maintenance contract. Because you know what they say, if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. So give them a phone call today and line up that maintenance. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 12:18 on a Thursday afternoon, heading toward the weekend, heading toward more Major League Baseball tonight and the college football schedule. I think it was either you or Austin, my son, who pointed out that East Carolina, it feels like East Carolina's the one that took the Thursday night games this year.
Yeah.
They raised their hand, was like, we'll take them. We'll take all of them.
I think through the first 5 weeks, they play like 3 or 4 already.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of their thing.
They're kind of the headliner, I guess, tonight, supposedly. They are on the road at Tulane tonight, which actually, watching Tulane, you can kind of scout a team who may make the college football playoff there.
The Americans got quite a few teams. That's going to be a fun kind of undercard in college football this year. Them, Memphis, obviously South Florida, those teams kind of in the mix there. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out and who very likely is going to be the one to punch their ticket to the playoff this year.
Yeah, so the Pirates and the Green Wave tonight. That game down in New Orleans. If you went to New Orleans, if you went to Baton Rouge, you could have caught Tulane tonight, a little Thursday night football, and then you could have driven up to Baton Rouge.
I should have asked Elijah if he was going to check that out. He's in Baton Rouge already. Flew out there yesterday afternoon, I believe. So he's going to the Saints game on Sunday, but I imagine if he had the opportunity, he'd probably check that one out.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Also tonight, just for FYI, 7 o'clock on ESPNU, Louisiana Tech is at Kennesaw State. 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, Jacksonville State at Sam Houston. And at 8 o'clock on ESPN2, Southern Mississippi is at Georgia Southern. So you got 4 games tonight. None of them Power 4 games.
I always have a soft spot for Kennesaw State.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're from over here.
I'm from there. I toured their campus before. I went to college, and I went there before they had a football team.
Okay.
But they were selling shirts in their bookstore that said "Still undefeated" before they ever played a football game. So I always kind of have a soft spot for the Owls and watch them whenever I can.
What is it? That's the old College of Charleston line there. Just FYI, if you watch that, if you get into that Kennesaw game, Kennesaw State game, keep an eye out for Donovan Westmoreland, former 4-star defensive end / linebacker who was originally committed to Georgia, then came to South Carolina, played at South Carolina, and transferred out. He's having a fairly decent season, 19 total tackles for him on the season and 2 sacks. So if you see a Donovan Westmoreland, if you flip over and you're like, okay, that was a one-time Gamecock out there.
Isn't that always fun when you watch some of these G5 games? Like, oh, that's where that guy ended up.
Yeah.
Because there are names that, once they get out of the P4 ranks, you don't hear quite as much. I'm like, oh, there's that guy.
I'm with you on that. Last night, there would be a couple names that would pop up on like that Middle Tennessee game, and I would be like, was that a guy? Because I remember recruiting names really well. And I'd be like, was that a guy? Was that a guy that was a big-time recruit? But, yeah, so if you catch that game tonight. 803-404-6100. So we don't know the true health status. Now, Garrett Nussmeier was not on the availability report, the injury report yesterday.
Right, and I don't think he's been on any of them.
He has never been on one. And to be quite honest, the speculation of an injury is just that. Now, it's basically inside sources from within LSU saying, yes, he is not 100%. There's been rumors of a knee. Yep. There's been rumors of maybe a torn oblique or abdomen, maybe a pulled. Like, it's a very murky situation with what precisely is going on with Garrett Nussmeier.
And, it was only 2 weeks ago, I guess, where Brian Kelly was getting very defensive about the health of Garrett Nussmeier, though this week, when asked about it, he said, hey, he wasn't throwing last week. A lot of the stuff that he was doing was film and VR and stuff like that. So there were precautionary reasons for keeping him out to try and get him back to full health. So there is something going on, but they are keeping it as close to the vest as possible about what exactly the problem is. But you can very much see when you watch LSU play this year, there's a difference between Garrett Nussmeier a year ago and this year's version of Garrett Nussmeier, and an injury to your oblique, your abdomen, would certainly make sense.
Yeah, you're right about that. When did it occur? There's rumors that something occurred in the preseason, that he's been playing with this for the first part of the season. There's rumors that it occurred during the Clemson game on one of the hits. Nobody seems to really know, but it has caused you to raise your eyebrows a little bit and go, all right, you're watching the backup quarterback a little bit.
Yeah, and Dave, if we could get this would be cut number 27 here from Brian Kelly. This is him talking earlier on this week when he was asked about Michael Van Buren Jr., who's the backup quarterback, started last year, most of the season for Mississippi State, on what exactly he's been doing in practice and what he did last week when Garrett Nussmeier was not taking any reps.
I think, he's beginning to command the offense the way I'd like a starter to command it, not a backup. I thought earlier in the year he commanded the offense like a backup. I want him to go in there and with confidence, with communication, and do that. And I thought he did a very good job when he was given the reins last week. So those are all really positive things because I think we see his skill set. He's got a live arm. He's got some elusiveness. He's got some grittiness to him that you can see in game situations. But we really like Mike. We knew what we were getting in the portal. I think it's just his maturation now as a freshman coming into his own now that he's been in this program. So I thought it was a really good week for him.
And I don't just bring this up out of thin air. He was asked multiple questions about him, and a lot of the insiders writing about Michael Van Buren a lot this week because, of course, you have the injury to Garrett Nussmeier, which has hurt his ability as a passer. And Michael Van Buren Jr. is not a better passer than Nussmeier, but he is mobile. And when you talk about a team that is struggling to run the ball the way that LSU is, there's a belief that maybe he could be somebody that you bring in certain situations, packages to, if nothing else, spark the run game a little bit by giving you a little bit of a different look. Now, in the last hour, we talked to Hunt Palmer from ESPN Baton Rouge, and the concept of that is not outlandish by any means, but he also brought up the point they have a running back in Juwan Johnson, who is a high school quarterback, started off as a DB for LSU, hasn't really gotten any run this year on offense, but he's somebody that could potentially play that role of a wildcat type of quarterback that could spark the run game. But nevertheless, the thoughts out there are they got to do something different. You have a hurt quarterback and you can't run the ball with your running backs. There might be some different looks that you haven't seen this year out of this LSU offense on Saturday night.
Well, it's the same. Both teams are kind of in the same boat of like you had the bye week to maybe tinker with things, to try things around. You mentioned Michael Van Buren. Well, we know South Carolina wasn't tinkering with another quarterback. What you hope they were tinkering with was the run game and maybe a few different run plays. But kind of like you said, trying to do something different to generate rush yards when you need it. And it doesn't have to be a 90-yard run.
Sure.
You just want something that can maybe get you 5 yards and put you in a second and manageable or third and very short. And so with that being said, yeah, Brian Kelly, I've always liked Brian Kelly as a coach. I still like Brian Kelly as a coach. I don't know if the fit, and I feel like there are times in coaching where you have to have a coach with a certain personality be a certain fit with a certain program. LSU kind of seems to be that way. You need kind of in some way, shape, or form the quirky kind of coach. I know Nick Saban had his own quirks, but Les Miles, Ed Orgeron were quirky coaches. Florida's another one, by the way, that I think you got to have a person with a certain kind of personality that is, you look at Spurrier and you look at Meyer, that is egotistical, that is all about themselves, that is brash and is going to talk a little trash.
Yeah, you're very right on that. And, we learned a lot more about Billy Napier in the Any Given Saturday documentary. And seems like a good dude, seems like he comes from a good family, but he's very boring, and that does not fit the standard of what Florida football is. And in the same kind of way, like, again, Brian Kelly, very good coach. There's a reason why he had the success at Notre Dame and Cincinnati before coming to LSU, but he's definitely a far cry from, like, the personality that Ed Orgeron and Les Miles were. And those guys were worse football coaches but had more success and won national championships. And it's like, okay, where's the issue here? Why is it not clicking the way it needs to for Brian Kelly?
Well, and so I say all that. If he is, he's a smart coach, very, very, very wise offensively. He's now had time to draw up and look and reevaluate his offense. So to answer your point and to kind of discuss what you're finishing here, don't be surprised on Saturday night to see some new wrinkles at LSU to try and generate some offense and score some points.
And he downplayed, there's like, hey, I don't want to take, Garrett Nussmeier off the field because he's obviously your best option at quarterback, whether he's at 100% or 80%. And again, you always kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt because even if he did have a backup plan of, hey, here's some exotic stuff we're going to throw out there, you're not going to give it to South Carolina on Monday or Tuesday to have them prepare the entire week for it. You want to catch them by surprise when you trot out whether it is Michael Van Buren, whether it is Juwan Johnson, say, hey, who's this guy? What's he going to do? And LSU hasn't done that this year.
803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in. We'll come back. Get into a little bit of Jeremiah Donati, what he had to say about that Miami game. And, again, I'm fascinated. He's doing a study on the traffic. I mean, okay, if he gets that done, I don't know if you can be athletic director and governor all at the same time, but we might have to consider that. You're listening to Tyler Head, Bill Gunner. He's Captain David Ayer. It is the early game. your Thursday afternoon as we are off and running. Austin, by the way, weighed in on our discussion as Tyler was talking about back in the day with Kennesaw State. And Austin said College of Charleston is truly undefeated. 1-0 all time. Played one game in maybe the early 1900s.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, good job. Good job. Way to play the one game, pick up the victory, and get out for College of Charleston. Kennesaw State, though, now a full-fledged program.
Yeah, they don't have quite the same record.
803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. So yesterday, Jeremiah Donati talking with Jay Phillips and with Terry Ford, and he said some interesting stuff. Now, what I was kind of fascinated by is the scheduling because Tyler, quite frankly, if you're honest about it, if you're being kind of blunt about it, the head coach of a football team really doesn't have a say in scheduling because of the way football scheduling is so far out in advance, right?
Right.
Like the Virginia Tech game this year was booked well in advance of Shane. We didn't even know Shane Beamer was going to be the head coach.
Yeah.
The Virginia Tech series right now that's still on is for 2036, 2037. Obviously, we have no clue. Virginia Tech has no clue. We have no clue if we'll be around for that, let alone who the football coach is.
What conference those teams are going to be in by that point in time. The players, the freshmen in that game are, 6 years old right now?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like it is crazy how far out in advance those things get done. So yeah, Coach Beamer had it was a coincidence that we had the Beamer storyline line up for week 1 this year against Virginia Tech because that game was booked well in advance of Beamer ever even being considered as the head coach here. And yeah, you have to think about those things really far out. And when you make the changes like dropping the Miami series, that had to be done quickly because that series is coming up next year, and you obviously have to have a quick turnaround in terms of replacing that game, but there are plenty of other series you have time to kind of figure out between now and those games going to be played.
But I say that because that means scheduling really actually falls on your AD, who is kind of not only looking out for your current head coach, maybe your future head coach, looking out for the program and finances, but here is Jeremiah Donati yesterday talking about canceling that Miami series.
Well, absolutely. I think you nailed it. I mean, first of all, the series was scheduled long before either conference was playing 9 games, and so it would have been a great matchup. They were excited to play. We were excited to play. But when you move to the 9 conference games, it's just a lot to ask of your team year in and year out. As you know, this is the toughest league in the country. It's a gauntlet, and you want to put yourself in the best possible position to be in the tournament at the end of the year. And so this was a total mutual decision. Dan called me a few weeks ago, I guess, after the ACC had voted to go to 9, and it was a pretty short conversation. He just said, "Hey, look, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, there's a $3 million buyout in front of that's in the way of this." And he said, "Look, we would prefer to cancel the series as well, given that we're now going to 9 conference games and they've got an obligation to play a Power 5 as well. We of course will always play Clemson, and so that's the skinny. That's how it happens. So." Obviously disappointing. I know our fans are disappointed, and I think the challenge with any scheduling in college athletics, it's not like the NFL where you've got everyone's playing the same schedule. And if you could line up all, 134 schools and they all play the same or similar schedule, I think you'd be fine with that. But what you don't want to do is put yourself at a disadvantage compared to the competition in a league that's already extremely competitive. So that's basically the gist. And, we've got other games on the schedule down the road. That's not breaking news to anyone. And so we're looking at all those and having conversations daily about those games and others. So there's probably more changes coming.
All right. Reckless speculation.
Mm-hmm.
Just no facts behind this. Just reading between the lines with Jeremiah Donati. South Carolina wanted out of the game but didn't want to pay the $3 million. I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
Because he's like, basically it sounds like Miami called and was like, hey, Dan Radakovich calls and goes like, hey, listen, we can't do this. The schedule doesn't work out. And South Carolina was like, oh, yes, we've actually been wanting to do that, but there's $3 million involved, and we didn't want to pay that.
Yeah, if we can both agree to walk away from this,
right.
Nobody has to pay anything, and we're good. And that's probably exactly what they wanted to have happen. So, and you almost kind of, because again, the SEC went to the 9-game schedule first before the season started, and it's only been the past couple weeks that the ACC has. So I'm sure there was hope that, okay, now that they're doing that, maybe we can come to an agreement here and walk away from this without having to pony up that money, or else, again, you would have had to swallow the bullet.
I think they were going to play it. I think South Carolina was like, well, I guess we're going to play it.
We're going to have to suffer for 2 years playing 11 Power 4 games, but it worked out well. And as Donadio noted there, he understands the disappointment because that would have been a huge matchup, them coming here next year and obviously getting to go down to South Beach in 2027. But, what he said there of putting yourself in the best position. And you don't want to be the one team in your conference that's playing a more strenuous schedule than everybody else. Again, it's not like the NFL where the schedule is as balanced as possibly can be. There are imbalances based on how you go about your non-conference slate. In Carolina, you don't want to be the one team playing 11 games when everybody else is playing 10.
Right. You did hear him mention future games, North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech. I will say, for the sake of just, I hope they don't get a little bit too quick and cancel those. Mm-hmm. Let's see what the College Football Playoff Committee does here moving forward. Let's see if there's a change in their views of things. Let's if you want to cancel them in the future. Again, I'm not like upset and be like, I can't believe South Carolina did this, and boy, they're backing out. What a bunch of wusses. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying about that. About Alabama backing out of a West Virginia series that they would probably blow West Virginia off the table twice. But my point on that is, just wait and see how things play out before you start canceling, because we as fans deserve this. And I do. Here's what you got to think of. Next year, the financial impact that Miami coming would have had on the Midlands, and by that, hotels that would have been bought up by Miami fans, restaurants that would have taken advantage of people coming in for a huge game, the tailgating supplies that would have been bought the day of the game from gas stations and or other places down here. You think about the concessions in Williams-Brice Stadium would have been up. All the things that you're going to, and not only that, now you're going to pay out some kind of fee to bring in a cupcake to supposedly get slaughtered.
Yeah.
And I'll say this. So if we're going to do this, because we're doing this for coaches, right?
Yes.
You just said it.
Yes.
If a coach loses one of these games, I think this should be a new rule. One of these bye games. If a coach, he has to give up his salary for a year.
Okay. Or at least he has to pay what that fee was
that's
to the
fine
team.
With me too.
Because, again, these fees typically go anywhere between, I think, SC State got like $500,000, sometimes $1 to $2 million, depending on who the opponent is and how far they're traveling and stuff like that. But, yeah, your salary's on the line if you lose this one. Because, again, you pay them to come in here so you can beat them soundly, play some backups, feel good about yourself, get yourself right, whatever it may be. You're not supposed to lose those games.
So my new suggestion, if we're going to do this, we're going to cancel some of these games, that's fine. I have no problem with it. I totally understand. You're helping the coaches out. You're helping the team out. If a team loses that game, the coach's salary is on the line for that particular game, because you simply can't lose.
Wait. Let me channel my inner wrestling fan here. You're familiar with what Money in the Bank is, right?
Kind of.
Where they have the ladder match with the briefcase that hangs above the ring for a contract opportunity. This game, we have the coach's salary in some kind of briefcase. I don't know. We can have it on a drone or something, suspended over the stadium and hanging in the balance for that other team to win.
I think you got it in a briefcase we'll use South Carolina as the example, on South Carolina sideline. And much like you've seen, like I've seen it, I think in a Big Ten game. I know I've seen it in Duke, North Carolina, where the winning the team rushes across the field.
Like the trophy game.
Trophy game.
Yeah.
And so we'll use like Furman as an example. If Furman came in and beat South Carolina, their team rushes over and grabs the briefcase.
I like that.
Is holding it up.
I like it.
Let's add a little bit of concern here.
Well, we certainly raise the stakes in those games a little bit
for the coach. Yeah. I mean, listen, all of a sudden the coaches now, the coaches might take that a little bit differently. You might not see some starters coming out so early.
Coach, maybe your kid doesn't get that new car for their 16th birthday. Maybe you're buying him a beat up old Honda Accord or something instead. A lot of implications on that.
So we'll see where it goes. But Jeremiah Donati yesterday addressing that situation. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in, or if you've got a particular punishment a coach should have besides getting fired. I get it. That's the easy one for y'all.
Now, that can lead to you getting fired.
Yes.
And losing your salary.
Good point. Yeah. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up here. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 12:49 as we wrap up our number one here. Coming up in the next hour, we'll get into some big picture college football, look around the country, and we'll start coming up in the next hour with what's going on up in Chapel Hill. Again, if you haven't been paying attention, it's not just like, ha, 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 Bill Belichick's got a girlfriend and she's trying to run the whole operation and she's power hungry and crazy.
That story died midsummer, right? We milked all we could out of that. Became an afterthought. Nobody was talking about it. It's new things happening now is why it keeps coming up.
Yeah, well, and you say, and it's new things, but this is like old school, like cheating.
Yes.
We got some improper benefits. We're practicing illegally.
A lot of things that could potentially hurt this program for years to come.
Yeah, their injured players are being told to get lost, basically. Yeah. We'll get into all of that. But we got to take a break here. During the last segment, I mentioned that Miami would bring a nice little fan contingent up here. Maybe not nice, but they'd bring a fan contingent up here, and that that would help the economy and everything. That's one of the things you lose when you cancel a game like this. We now have a segment called Dave Has a Bone to Pick. So, Captain Dave, you were listening. You did not agree with my assessment that Miami would bring a fan contingent up here that would help the economy.
Good God, no. They don't even go to their home games. They average $49,000 per game. You can buy 8 tickets. At the beginning of the season, you could buy all 8 home games for Miami for $420. People still aren't going. The only sellouts they've had in the past, 20 years is FSU and Virginia Tech. Now, they came close with UCF, I have to
Okay. Did they? All right.
They are, I think, looked at as one of the most fickle fan bases in college football. And look, they used to be able to play down at the Orange Bowl. There used to be more character to where they played. Now you're basically renting an NFL stadium in Hard Rock, and I'm sure that doesn't help. But, yeah, this is a fan base that has very much a love-hate relationship with its own team. And we've seen, even in good years, they struggle to fill the place out.
But isn't it – all right, so my brother-in-law is a Miami fan. He's a Miami fan. But he's from Miami, but now they live in Raleigh, and then I think he went to East Carolina if I've got the math on him right.
Okay.
But isn't the Miami fan base basically a transient fan base? Like the football fan base, like that's the school – it's a different kind of school. It's it's an academic. It took me a long time to understand that that's a prestigious academic school.
A lot of smart people go to the U.
And so it's not, and you just mentioned it, it's a transient, like not a lot of people stay in Miami after they graduate. On top of that, as you just mentioned, the campus is at the tip of Florida. It's 45 minutes. I've driven from Hard Rock Stadium. I've driven past Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah.
And driven through the campus. Beautiful campus, by the way. Absolutely gorgeous. But that's the other thing is they don't play on their home campus. And plus you've got the beach, clubs, whatever else you got to do. You got the Florida Panthers. You got the Miami Heat. You got the Marlins, I guess. The Dolphins.
A Saturday night home game for the U is probably I don't know, the 4th most popular thing to do in Miami on a Saturday night.
So yeah, so I'm okay. I'm all right with this, but so you don't think they could muster up 8,000, 7,000 fans?
No, we're not losing any tourist revenue if we play Miami here. It's just not going to happen. They're not coming. They're not traveling from Miami to Columbia, South Carolina, to see their team, which they barely care about.
That is a good point. Because a lot of the appeal to playing these non-conference games, I'm going to go get to experience a different place, a different city, different culture, different weather, whatever it may be. For the ones that are in Miami, you're very hard-pressed to be like, hey, instead of spending the weekend in Miami, do you want to come to Columbia, South Carolina? I don't know how appealing that is.
You got to be a diehard Kane fan. I do agree with that. I bet we could get 4,000 of their fans. Now you got me wondering. I don't know what road game they've got coming up, but I'll have to try and see what their traveling fan base looks like. But Dave, I kind of disagree. I think Miami. I'm going to back the Miami fan base. I don't think they're a great fan base, but I think they would travel well.
Would Michael Irvin come to this game?
He's always on the sideline. He got nothing else to do right now. He's got nothing else to do.
I don't think so. At $50 a ticket, and you can't even go to the games. I mean, come on. That's like $50 a ticket. I mean, that's something for Dave to do on a night, when he's got no date. Hey, $50, I can swing that.
Could the U beat the Dolphins right now? I know it's always a ridiculous
I'm having
question.
a hard time buying in on I'm having a hard time buying in on Miami, and I don't know. I don't know if it's because they're not as brash and cocky as the great Miami teams that I've watched.
Yeah,
Miami doesn't have a player that I hate.
Yeah, they were always.
I should say, hate's a strong word.
The U at the best was the bad boys of college football. There's a reason you had the Catholics versus convict things back in the day, because the U was the brash, in-your-face, arrogant team.
Yeah, I don't want to like Carson Beck, but he's just there.
He doesn't give you a reason to hate him, right?
Yeah.
He's there. And by the way, I know the U couldn't beat the Dolphins. I was kidding.
Dolphins are up and down right now.
Dolphins are bad, but still an NFL team.
Those two defensive ends, who knows? 803-404-6100. Ernest weighed in early. I love the briefcase idea. If Furman were to win, hypothetically, using them as a team, they would open the briefcase, toss the money around, and lay down in the middle of your field doing snow angels. That'd be awesome.
Love it.
Hour 2 on the way. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. We've discussed a little bit this hour that for me, it's basically the start of the weekend. And with Major League Baseball tonight, with college football getting going, you know what Thursday is. It'll be a trip to Old Timey Meat Market to pick up a delicious steak. Maybe this afternoon I'll go with some chicken skewers, Italian chicken skewers, or you know what? I hadn't had a good filet of salmon lately. At Old Timey Meat Market, you can get all 3 of those plus some delicious pork chops. And they got sides, too. They got twice baked potatoes. They got soups. They even got casseroles. Go find out for yourself. It's why I have Old Timey Meat Market as the Gunner's household to stop by and pick up a great dinner, and they'll do the same for you. You got 3 locations to choose from. South Congaree, the St. Andrews Road location in Irmo, or, of course, that Lexington store where you're likely to bump into me. Wherever that store is that you need to visit, stop by tonight, pick up a great dinner, and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Thursday. Captain Dave Adair, Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, as we get you ready for the weekend. We'll talk some big picture college football coming up this hour, as we talked a lot of Gamecocks there in the first hour. Everything from looking at the LSU game and breaking down Garrett Nussmeier and what his injury could be. Also talking a little bit of the backup quarterback, Michael Van Buren, and how LSU may utilize him to get their run game going. Also, we got into a little bit of what Jeremiah Donati had to say yesterday when he joined Jay Phillips and Terry Ford on the post-game show. And I mentioned, we didn't bring it up, but he talked a little bit about the traffic situation there around Williams-Brice Stadium, and basically deciding to do a study on the traffic. Now, I'm pretty sure Jeremiah Donati, the University of South Carolina athletic director, cannot go out and start dictating traffic patterns, traffic assignments on game day. I don't think he can build a new road that can help. I don't know what exactly he would do.
I appreciate the effort to at least look into it. Again, it's a lot more of a complicated process. I will say this. As somebody that came from the University of Georgia and a small town that's not built to have 100,000 people in it on a Saturday, it could be worse, right?
Right.
I've sat in many of traffic jams for Georgia games that are nightmares, and sitting in the traffic that I do coming away from a Carolina game, all things considered, not terrible. Could always be better, but not terrible considering. And I've never been to Starkville. I've never even been to the upstate to see a game at Clemson. I imagine those are worse, though. You know what I mean? So you're not in the worst situation, but you can't always make improvements.
I really, honestly, I mean, the traffic is what the traffic is. I've never really had a major problem, and by that I mean something that I didn't expect. Now, I will admit, I park at when I go at the corner of George Rogers and Shop Road in the Farm Bureau lot, and so I'm able to, at the end of the getting into the game. I will say, a couple weeks ago, we came in late. Me and the kids did, and we showed up late, and I came down Shop Road. It is a zoo coming down.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a zoo. I've done it. It's crazy if you come in for a 7:45 game at 2:00. I came in at like 4:30, and the fraternity and sorority kids, the golf carts, everything going on. It was a wild time coming down Shop Road. The traffic was flowing. I mean, we were moving. Sure. We were not having a problem. But it was the people in the road doing everything. Now, I've also come in through Assembly Street and come down that way, and passed by the old Carolina Mets Bomber Stadium. I get in the far left lane, kind of just cruise on through.
When we had the Vanderbilt game, that was Parents Weekend.
Right.
Terry and I, we do our pregame show over Jay's Corner, and because I typically come down Hugie, go through Olympia at the Mills and get to it that way. There was like a train stopped on the tracks. I don't know what was going on, but I saw that ahead as I was at the light at Founders Park, so I decided to turn left and go down Assembly, go through campus, and get there that way. And I was making good time. And again, I'm a mile, not even a mile, as the crow flies away from my destination. And I'm not kidding. We sat there for like 45 minutes. Terry was like 4 cars ahead of me. We're on the phone with each other talking about like, hey, we got to hurry up or we're going to have to figure out the start of the show here. And traffic was not moving because all we needed to do was get to Rosewood. Right. It would have been good. It was just getting to Rosewood that was the tough task.
Yeah, I say that. The trains, yes, the trains are an issue. But even when I leave, and I've changed my leaving pattern. It used to be, look, there were several a night in my 20s and 30s where I'm going to be point blank. I was me and a group of guys were probably the last people. If not, we were in we would sit out at our parking lot. You look, the fairgrounds would be empty. You could look up and down. And I would say we were some of the very few last ones to ever leave the area. But, and traffic would be easy to get out of. Now with the kids, I tend to leave a little bit earlier. I still never have really had, it's crowded. I'm not saying it's not.
Sure.
But it's nothing where I'm like ridiculously upset about everything.
And last year where we had our pregame show on Bluff Road, the way I was parked, it was always going to send me out on Bluff to 77. which was it took a few minutes to get there, but all traffic goes in one direction, which is good. Now I'm going through the city, and really the only problem is everybody merging in. Because once you get everybody in line, you're good. As long as a train doesn't come, you're good. You can typically get home in under an hour. So again, all things considered, it's not terrible. It can always be better, but it's not terrible.
I listen, we could spend the whole show. I could offer some theories, or not some theories, but some ideas I have on just not only that, because I'll be honest, what bothers me more so than traffic is the people wandering the streets and the golf carts.
Yes, that you always got to watch out.
Yeah, so there you go. We agree on that. Anyway, Jeremiah Donati is going to look at that and see what he can do. Again, tonight we have some college football taking place for you. The kind of the headliner, if you will be East Carolina and Tulane. And Tyler, you and I recommend if you got about 30 minutes, 25 minutes, flip on over. Tulane could be a college football playoff team, and it's worth flipping over and watching. Yeah,
and obviously I feel like in the past 3 to 4 years, they're always kind of that hot name that could make their way in. And obviously Boise State got in last year. The Mountain West doesn't look like, the Mountain West is shaping up to be that kind of, conference this year. So, yeah, Tulane, Memphis, South Florida, they're kind of the three juggernauts of the American that are fighting for that spot. So, yeah, if you want to check out a team that has a very good shot at being mixed for the playoff, I would recommend checking out Tulane.
Yeah, check them out tonight. Again, they'll take on East Carolina also, Louisiana Tech at Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State at Sam Houston, and again, Southern Miss at Georgia Southern, part of that. Baseball this afternoon, Major League Baseball, Phillies and Dodgers, Game 4 of that series. Dodgers now looking to push the elimination button again tonight. That'll take place at about 6 o'clock this afternoon. And then the late game, Cubs and Brewers. That'll make for a good little ending of the evening because it's going to get late there. You'll probably get a little chilly out at Wrigley Field. You'll have that nice chill in the air. It'll look like a fall baseball game.
Yeah.
And the Cubs will be desperately, I think, holding on for dear life. How they staved off the Brewers last night, I wasn't sure because they jumped out to that early lead on the Brewers, got up 4-0.
4 runs in the first inning.
Yep, and then held on for dear life down the stretch.
Yeah, this has definitely been, I'd say, the second funnest series behind Detroit and Seattle. And obviously, again, a phenomenal venue there at Wrigley Field that you're going to watch this game at tonight. And two offenses certainly capable of scoring a lot of runs. And again, can you prevent the Brewers from getting out to an early lead and leaving you kind of into the dust and getting off to a better start like last night? We'll see. But no, some fun games coming up today. And then you'll get, of course, the standalone Game 5 tomorrow with Detroit and Seattle to decide who's going to the ALCS.
Also tonight, little NFL taking place, and I will admit the NFL's done a good job of getting me more intrigued into these Thursday night games. There was a time where to get people to tune in, they would make the teams wear the Color Rush uniforms, and those
I remember
hurtful on the eyes.
They're now doing the rivalry series, but I think you kind of choose what game that is. It's not like because like the Dolphins wore theirs on Monday Night Football the other week, so it's not tied. Yeah, there's some bad Color Rush games. It's not tied to Thursday Night Football anymore. I guess they don't want to subject Al Michaels to poor uniforms when he's already sitting.
Kirk and the poor dog
Street,
and the dog.
And the dog. And
dog's colorblind, but they don't want to.
We're still in the window right now. We've actually had some pretty interesting Thursday night games so far. The later you get in the season, the worse these games become because teams are more beat up and obviously more tired. You're talking about playing a game 100 hours after you played one on Sunday. But an intriguing matchup, with the Eagles coming off the first loss of the season, and they popped the stats up on the TV a little bit earlier. For as great as the defense is, great as special teams playing, that offense is just boring. You got capable players, obviously, but, they're struggling to get 200 yards a game. They went cold on the ground in the second half on Sunday against the Broncos, against a team in the Giants that looked great one week, not great the next week. They lost to the Saints this past weekend, so you don't really know what you're going to get. Divisional matchup, obviously, so who knows what happens tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Eagles are becoming an odd, interesting situation because you got A.J. Brown, who's kind of throwing a fit right now that he's not getting the football. Now there's rumors that Saquon Barkley is not happy about his usage early in the season. I would say two things to that, like, hey, man, they're going to need you late in the season. If they hold out some of your carries early on, be content with that. And then there's complaints now that Jalen Hurts, as the quarterback, is too conservative for that team and that offense and the weapons they have.
Yeah, and look, this is a team that, again, won the Super Bowl last year and has been really good under Nick Sirianni, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a team that's had so much success, have so much internal turmoil that they've had. Because, again, it was last year was, what's the relationship with Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? And people believing that, man, that 6-game losing streak 2 years ago, could that get Sirianni fired? And if they don't win the Super Bowl, what happens to him? Like, for as successful as they are, they have a lot of issues behind closed doors that, again, they keep winning, and with the exception of Sunday against the Broncos. But, man, it doesn't seem like everything is sunshine and rainbows by any means.
Does that make it more should we appreciate the Kansas City Chiefs for what they do? Because this is what happens, right? Most teams that win a Super Bowl, they've claimed, a lot of the players have claimed that championship. Now it becomes a little bit more about me, my money, and it's hard to keep everybody on the same page and working toward the same goal. And that's what's been so impressive about the Chiefs. Whereas you see someone like the Eagles here, they get their championship ring. They're still great.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still going to they're making the playoffs.
Sure.
But like you said, now we're kind of looking at them like, oh boy, they're flawed.
Yeah, and the Chiefs are the closest thing to a dynasty we have right now in the NFL, but you don't have the same hateability factor of what like the Patriots had. Like, it was easy to hate Bill Belichick. It was easy to hate Tom Brady. And I get it. There are people that don't like Mahomes, people that don't like Travis Kelce with the Taylor Swift stuff, but like everybody loves Andy Reid, right? Like, unless you're a fan of a divisional rival. Like, I'm sure Jay doesn't like Andy Reid because he's a fan of the Broncos, but most everybody likes Andy Reid. A very easy guy to pull for, a lifer in the NFL, all that kind of stuff. And Mahomes, yeah, he has some quirks about him, but for the most part, I feel like he's pretty well liked across the league. And now they are, on the other side of the ball bouncing their way, essentially, like it did a year ago. They won all the one-score games. When Trevor Lawrence falls down twice and still scores a winning touchdown, that means the luck's maybe not on your side anymore. So, the hateability for them is not quite as high. 803-404-6100. So tonight it's Eagles-Giants. So we get a little Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurts. Some people are billing this as the start of the next. Boy, are we, by the way, us sports media people are wildly overly dramatic about stuff because I think Jackson Dart's got a long way to go, but they're billing it as the start of the next great rivalry, the NFC East quarterback rivalry, Dart and Hurts. We are so desperate, and again, it's AFC, we're so desperate to find the next Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning feud, that, if you want to call it a feud, that persisted for so many years, and maybe you have that with, the Bills and the Chiefs or something along those lines, but we're so quick to try and build up, this is the next that. You're right, Jackson Dart, and he wasn't like phenomenal in his first start, played really bad last week and had an atrocious fumble against the Saints. Like, let's give this guy some time, right? Like, he's got a long way to go before he becomes anything in this league worth building up.
And then, of course, you just look at that conference. You look at the NFC right now. The East has the Eagles at 4-1, Commanders 3-2, Cowboys 2-2, 2-1. And then the Giants 1-4. The NFC North, Lions at 4-1, Packers at 2-1-1, Vikings 3-2, and the Bears 2-2. And then the NFC South, which your Falcons, some people's Panthers, Bucks 4-1, Falcons 2-2, Panthers 2-3, and the Saints. Oh, Spencer Rattler Saints 1-4 down there.
They finally got a win.
They got to win.
Congrats to them. I don't know how many more they're going to get, but they finally got one.
All that matters. We'll come back. Speaking of getting a win, and that's what matters, well, North Carolina's not getting many of those, and the things that do matter, like, I don't know, not committing NCAA infractions, they're breaking those. This isn't just your regular, like, let's laugh at North Carolina. It's a little more serious. We'll tell you all about what's happening. And is Bill Belichick going to make it out of the next 2 weeks? There's a lot of rumors he won't. We'll talk about it. You're listening to the Halftime Show. A reminder coming up tonight, Carolina Calls with head coach Shane Beamer, 7 o'clock tonight. We'll get back into that availability report. We didn't talk about that in hour number one, but South Carolina putting out the availability report yesterday. The only significant news at the moment on a Wednesday report was that Marquis Anderson is out. Now, there were some other names on there.
Sure.
And we'll talk about that coming up later on this afternoon. But Marquis Anderson out. Everybody else, questionable, probable, doubtful, wherever you want to go with it. But we'll talk about that coming up. But tonight, 7 o'clock, right here on 107.5 The Game, you can hear Shane Beamer live from Backstreet's Bar and Grill over there. And we'll have him and see what he has to say as a big game for him. Big game for him, big game for the university, big game for the 2025 season down there in Baton Rouge. And, again, you can tune in right here on 107.5 The Game tonight and catch South Carolina's Shane Beamer call-in show here on 107.5 The Game. All right. That was wild yesterday. Now, this had been bubbling and building.
Yep.
If you haven't been paying attention, WRAL out of Raleigh, they put out kind of a I'm not going to call it a hit piece, but they put out a piece kind of at the very beginning of the week, almost into the previous weekend, as it pertained to Bill Belichick and some things going on. It was clearly a WRAL, again, as I mentioned, it's out of Raleigh. Now, covers a lot of area up there, but considered more of a North Carolina State type affiliation, if you will. So you maybe took that with a little bit of grain of salt and started saying, okay, maybe they're just digging. Look, pretty much when you have 85 football players plus walk-ons and you're getting beat the way North Carolina is, not a lot of people are going to be happy. It's kind of easy to find.
Sure.
It's easy to find inside sources, anonymous sources that are a little disgruntled.
Yeah, and whether that's somebody on the actual inside, like a coach or a player's family or something like that. You also have pretty high-level donors that hear things and know what's going on behind the scenes that when things are not going well are probably pretty willing to talk as well.
So you kind of maybe I personally read that earlier this week and was like, okay, not good, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Yesterday, it started to really explode, and it really hits the fan when Andrew Jones with Inside Carolina, Tar Heel 24/7 Sports, their website, basically repeats a lot of the same stuff. So what is happening? What exactly is happening up there in North Carolina? Let me make sure I didn't pull up a brand new update and start reading it. According to Andrew Jones, it says these potential exit strategies did take place on Wednesday morning. He goes on to say it doesn't mean Belichick was going to be fired, but preliminary conversations about the situation and its many prongs, effects were up for discussion. He also goes on to start breaking down some of the things that have occurred within the program. Tyler, I'm going to get to some of these things here and read them out for people, but let's start with you.
Sure. Anything
that stood out significantly, like, well, that's not good.
And again, in today's world with NIL and all these kind of things that have certainly relaxed what used to be illegal things in college football, breaking rules is a whole lot harder now. Right? Doing things that's going to get you in hot water with the NCAA is certainly not as easy as it once was. When you're doing things that are illegal and can turn into sanctions against your school, you're doing something pretty bad, typically.
So yesterday afternoon, Ali Connolly put out a report. Now, he put this on Twitter with multiple threads. Some of the things he said is that members of Belichick's coaching staff have already spoken to other schools that are expected to be in the college football playoff about taking on roles during the postseason. One anonymous coach said the Rats are leaving the ship.
It's those lifeboats being wheeled down into the water.
Some staffers believe a change will come within 2 weeks. Connolly goes on to say reports of serious recruiting violations remain under investigation in North Carolina. Recruiting and practice violations have already been proven by the school, according to multiple sources. Connolly goes on to say using recruit violations to knock down a coach's buyout has become a standard practice. If Belichick cannot find a landing spot to trigger his own buyout, he is expected to accept a greatly reduced compromised rate.
Yes.
He goes on to say that Belichick's communication with his staff in the past 2 weeks has been described as weird and distant by multiple members of the North Carolina coaching staff. Multiple coaches were unable to get a hold of him during North Carolina's bye week.
You know why? He went to Nantucket with his girlfriend. How many college coaches do you know take vacations in season? Even if only for a day.
One. I did know of one.
Okay.
He's retired now.
But typically, on your off week, you're recruiting. You're getting to jump on the next game. You'll have less time in the facility, more time with your family, but very rarely are you jetting off and not answering your phone when other coaches are trying to speak to you.
Let me go back to Andrew Jones of Tar Heel 24/7 Sports, Inside Carolina. He says they have learned of another case. There's 2 cases right now of a player being injured in the spring who showed up to fall camp and was told that they were not part of the team, could not use the facilities to rehab, and that they would be welcomed back next year after the season when that player was healthy.
I don't even know what to say about that one.
That's 2 of them.
That's pretty bad.
According to Andrew Jones, when presented with what they were told about violations, a source with significant knowledge of the power structure responded in disgust, but was not surprised.
Yeah, again, these things pile up, and you want to talk about building a case against them? They've got a pretty strong case right now.
I think they're trying to dig the case out. They're trying to figure out, and it sounds like also to some of this, Belichick's looking around like, this is not worth it. The crazy thing is, there were reports last night that he's looking for another job as if somebody else out there is like, hey,
yeah,
we think we'll take a chance on you now.
That was the funny thing about if he could find a soft landing spot with another team or a media role.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, Bill Belichick's not exactly the most talkative guy in the world. I know he did his appearance on McAfee last year a couple times a week and stuff like that, but he's not the guy that I think of like, okay, when I'm watching college football on Saturday and, they go to the studio between games, he's not the kind of guy or personality that's going to be sitting there, jovially talking with Matt Berry about what's going on. That's just not who he is. Great football mind, obviously, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, but he doesn't have that personality for TV like maybe he thinks he does.
And then, just to make sure there wasn't any confusion, and to settle us all down, and how many schools do you know do this? Last night, at 9:36 on a Wednesday night, we get statements from Carolina Athletics. Bill Belichick with a statement. I'm fully committed to North Carolina football and the program we're building here. That's a Belichickian statement, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he wrote that himself.
Bubba Cunningham, director of athletics. Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics in the university. Hey,
we consider Alabama to be the best college football team of the past 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
They have to put out statements mid-season about Saban's commitment or Greg Burns' commitment to the program or the coach.
Not at 9:36 on a Wednesday night, that's for sure.
Good programs don't typically do that.
What was the last program you remember something like this coming out late at night?
Late at night, I don't know. I know Florida's
You got one.
had to do this a couple times.
You got one.
Do I?
Was it a program? Was it I'm thinking of the Bobby, I guess, Falcons
that's
Petrino
right.
thing.
Yeah, that was in the dead of night.
Yeah.
When Falcons owner Arthur Blank woke up on Tuesday morning to see what he thought was his head coach getting introduced to Arkansas. Yes, that has happened before, and yeah, Arkansas was not a good place at that point in time.
803-404-6100. So we'll see. According to Ollie Connolly, according to Andrew Jones, several other people out there who are reporting on this, the consensus is that Belichick may not be, that they may get this resolved before North Carolina goes to California next Friday. They play in Berkeley next Friday. And I'll say this real quick. You brought up the question. I did want to get to this. You said, can it drive the program into the ground? No. New day, new era, college football. You bring in, they get rid of Bill Belichick. You wipe everything clean. You bring in John Summerall's a guy that they've talked about. Who knows who else is out there that they might want to go and grab. And you start fresh. And now with the transfer portal, no, it starts over very quickly.
I do wonder how good this job is, though, considering the potential jobs it's going to be going up against when it comes to trying to hire a coach.
We'll talk about that.
That's
we'll
my
get
big
into that
question.
because that sounds like this job, whether it's next week or at the end of the season, this job will be open. We'll talk about that when we come back, get into a few other big picture college football things. You're listening to the Halftime Show. 1:34 on a Thursday. Coming up on Saturday at 2:30, you can go and join Tyler Head out at, did you say you were out there? Yes, you said you were out there. You can go and join Tyler Head over at O'Hara's Public House out in Lexington for Gamecocks Game Day Live.
Yes, I'll be out there with Terry for the pregame show.
Okay.
And then Terry will be out there to watch the game. I'll be here with Preston and Jen for the watch-along in our new podcasting suite out here.
Okay.
So we'll have two separate watch party options if you want to come out or if you want to stay at home.
All right, yeah. Go by and check out Tyler and hang out with Tyler and Terry. 2:30 on 2:30 on Saturday. You can start getting ready for the game. O'Hara's got a bunch of TVs. I've been in there. They got great wings. We talked about that yesterday.
Good French dip too.
Good,
I like French dips. Big fan of it.
Good French. And I wasn't previous to being under the weather, but I wasn't a huge beer guy. But I think they have a nice selection of IPAs and stuff too.
They do, yes.
So you can go out there, catch some games in the afternoon, and hang out with Tyler and Terry. Make sure you do that on Saturday. It's Gamecocks Game Day Live from O'Hara's Public House, 131 Main Street in Lexington. Sometimes just for parking service, because I live in Lexington and Tyler does too. We're familiar with that area. It's on Main Street. Parking can be a little bit of a hassle. You can pull around and park back down in the courthouse, or the parking lot behind the building over by, I think it's Virginia Hyatt Park that is down there. So you can find some parking. Just get down there and go hang out. It'll be a good little environment. Saturday's supposed to be an odd day. We got this nor'easter.
Yes, supposed to cool off a little bit.
Yeah. So we'll see. They're kind of trying to figure out the weather. I was watching the Weather Channel this morning to see what's going on. So
I might actually wear the long sleeves tomorrow like you.
My reason for wearing long sleeves is entirely different than everybody else's at the current moment in time. 803-404-6100. We were talking in the previous segment about North Carolina, and Tyler, you brought up kind of what I was thinking last night as I was kind of reading all this and thinking to play out. The North Carolina job's going to open. It's going to open. I don't know if it's going to open next week, or I don't know if it's going to open the first week in December. It appears the majority of the administration at North Carolina wants out now.
Yes.
But they want out without having to pay the buyout. Bill Belichick wants somebody. And by the way, you want another little fun caveat to this. There is Michael Lombardi, and then there is his son, and all of a sudden I'm blanking on his name. The other Lombardi, who is the quarterback coach, and then there's two Belichick boys
that are assistants
who are on staff, and they all have buyouts.
Yes.
And so Bill Belichick isn't just trying to handle his buyout and get his money. He's in charge of a family of goons, essentially, who's got North Carolina being held hostage.
You know how when Dion went to Colorado, he said, I'm bringing my luggage, and it's Louis, involving Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, and that ended up working out well for him. Like, what's the opposite of Louis Vuitton? Well, what kind of baggage did Bill Belichick bring that is less than designer brand?
I don't have it, so I'm just going to go with he brought some Russell athletic gear with him.
Yeah, or a beat-up suitcase he got at the thrift store or something like that. Like, he didn't bring exactly high-dollar stuff here with us, and his son wasn't even a great OC or DC at Washington last year, and God, it's looking even worse this year.
Yeah. So just remember, again, I'll say this because Tyler mentioned it. People are like, why are y'all talking about this? But this is an old story. No. If you weren't paying attention yesterday, stuff's coming out now.
There's a headline every day.
And it's more of pertaining to like actual football stuff and an organization, an athletic department, a football program not being run rogue, mind you, just being poorly run.
Whatever our counterpart is in Chapel Hill, whatever the flagship station is for North Carolina, I'm sure they are counting down the minutes until basketball, because during the week, it's not like they can sit there and really preview games too well. Like, hey, you got a chance this weekend, because you don't. And you're dealing with this drama of your head coach that's dragging your football program into the ground at this point.
Now, you're exactly right. And, again, we'll see kind of what happens moving forward with them. But if the North Carolina job does come open, and it will, I shouldn't say if. This is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Where does it rank right now on the list of Arkansas, of UCLA, of Virginia Tech, and of Oklahoma State?
And got to throw in possibly Florida as well, if Billy can't survive the year.
I thought about that last night. I'm going to leave Florida out for now.
Okay.
Because I think Florida, maybe we have to revisit this discussion next week after the A&M game. But Yeah, but North Carolina is going to come open. So where would you put them in that list of 5?
Out of the 5 that we would know for sure, including this one, I mean, probably like 4, maybe 3.
What? Let's do this.
Right.
What does Tyler Head value in these jobs? What's important? Because I'm going to go North Carolina might be the best job.
Yeah.
Might actually be the best job, and I'll explain why in a minute now because I'll give my reasoning. Why do you say 4?
I think about resources, and I think about the conference that you're in and what that means for the benefit of your university. So you have 2 jobs right now, one open in the SEC in Arkansas, one that is open in the Big Ten and UCLA. Now, again, those are 2 teams that are perennially towards the bottom of their conference, but you're in 2 of the best situations conference-wise in terms of money coming in. You have fan bases that can pony up when they feel led to and help you out in that regard. And you just have the benefit of being in a stronger conference overall. I think Oklahoma State has shown in the past their ability to buy in and believe in that program. Virginia Tech, it's kind of back and forth. But I think with North Carolina, much like Kentucky, is the debate of where you stand on that university's campus in terms of how important your sport is, because basketball is obviously going to be number 1. Now, I feel like they care more about North Carolina football than they do Kentucky football, so you have a better chance of garnering more resources if you need them, but still, you're a basketball school, and your ceiling for success in football, I think, is only so high at this point.
I don't know whether I'm going to believe what I say, but I think I do believe it. I would actually put North Carolina as number 1.
Okay.
All right, let me make the case for this, and then you tell me whether you agree or not. I think North Carolina is the best job out of it when it becomes available. Here's why. Number 1, there's almost no pressure. Like there's literally no, now doesn't mean you can go 6-6. They just fired Mac Brown for that. But if you're going 8-4 and 9-3, you're safe. Mm-hmm. You're fine. Okay, you're going to be fine. Number 2, as for now, and that's going to lead me to number 3. As for now, you're in the ACC. If I'm a coach out there, and let's say I look at Arkansas, and I'm like, oh, man, more money, more resources, more prestigious conference. Oh, Texas? Oh, LSU? Oh, Alabama? Oh, Oklahoma? Florida? You go, man, I mean, look at what we're talking about this week, like with South Carolina's schedule. If I'm a coach and I'm out there looking, I'm like, and I look at the ACC, here's all of a sudden the first thing I think is like, look at what Clemson just did. Mm-hmm. It's not that Clemson was a great program, don't get me wrong, but Clemson still had, even last year, a cupcake path to the college football playoff. You're kind of like, I can go there, and let's be honest, at North Carolina, if you get into the college football playoff, they're going to build statues of you. Sure. They're going to name babies after you. Like the whole situation. That job right there equates to, I think, having the potential for more long-term success. Maybe your ceiling isn't as high, but I think more job security. And again, if you're a confident coach and you're like, I know how to, I think my strategy, my idea, my recruiting plan is going to work. You go, good, I'm here. That brings me to number 4, which, if you are looking at it and you view it a little bit differently, North Carolina's not staying in the ACC.
Probably not.
They're not staying in the ACC. I don't know where they're going. Me personally, Bill Gunner, not speaking for Tyler or Captain Dave or anybody, I want them in the SEC. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, sure,
I think it would be fun. I'm all for it. Bring them to the SEC.
They are one of, when we talk about whenever that next round of realignment comes, they are one of the most attractive options to the SEC and the Big Ten because they meet the academic standards of the Big Ten. They're in a state that neither conference has a footprint in right now. Them and Virginia, kind of the same way. So yes, the long-term future outlook is that they could be in one of those conferences within the next handful of years, possibly themselves.
So I think if you're a coach, you're looking at, I can have success now in the ACC. Again, football, you can turn this thing around in 1 year the way it's set up now. And you go, okay, I'm going to the Big Ten or the ACC. Mm-hmm. And I can be on the bottom floor of this elevator and ride this baby up. And then finally, North Carolina might not have Arkansas facilities or Alabama facilities. They've got fine facilities.
Sure.
And if you win, they're going to help you out a little bit more. And I'm not as worried about a passionate fan base as much as I am a fan base willing to help you. They'll do that. And again, I don't think they're going to harass you over it. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Wrapping up hour number 2. We'll get back into South Carolina coming up in the next hour. Look again back at LSU. Talk about that injury report that came out last night. There was a surprise on there that I'll tell Tyler about in the next hour. These injury reports, man.
Availability reports.
Not
allowed to call them injury reports.
Good
also,
point,
we can't call it a 2-minute warning. It's a 2-minute timeout.
Yeah. Anyway,
We want to be like the NFL, but we also don't.
I'll get back into those. We'll come up a lot of Gamecock talk coming up in the next hour. Anything you hear that you agree or disagree with, or just want to make a joke, 803-404-6100. Tyler, let me throw some names at you real quick. Just talking about potential job openings. I know nothing about this guy. I didn't know who this guy was.
Okay.
Until last weekend, but Hunter weighs in and goes, thoughts on Jerry Neuheisel for a coaching job. Like, Jerry Neuheisel is got about 15 minutes of fame, and he better profit off of it quick, buddy, after last week being the OC for UCLA that rings up Penn State and gets the victory.
He is quite essentially the flavor of the week right now, and that was quite literally his first time ever calling plays in his very short coaching career. He's only 33 years old.
Right.
So I need to see a bigger sample size than a Penn State team that, let's face it, probably didn't put as much investment into that game as they probably should have. Now, I don't know.
Remember they had to travel, and they lost to Oregon, and
so I'm not jumping on the Jerry Neuheisel bandwagon just yet. If they can consistently, because look, Nico's looked terrible through the first part of the season. There's a reason they fired Tito Sinceri prior to that game, because they felt like he was not getting the most out of Nico Imaliaba, who, remember, was a 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. So if Neuheisel can be the guy that unlocks this Nico that we have been missing all along, then sure. By season's end, if they do this every single week, put him in consideration. But I need to see more than a 1-game sample size to anoint this guy as a head coaching candidate.
Do you go in on a UCLA game this week? Does the TV somehow, some way find its way over to? I want to go back and look. I believe it's a Michigan State UCLA showdown this week, and I believe that game's at Michigan State as well. But yeah, does your TV somehow find a way just to see? But I've actually sadly seen a lot of UCLA because they've been playing these late games on television against Utah, UNLV.
Somebody's got to occupy that old Pac-12 slot.
Yeah, and Nico last week threw for 166 yards. He did run for 128, but he has not been a bad quarterback in his career. Has he lived up to what he is worth? No. Not at all.
He has been, look, last year at Tennessee, and then they made the college ball playoff, he was fine. Right? He wasn't the reason they made the playoff, but he was fine. There was the expectation that year 2 he was going to take this big step, and obviously we had the fiasco that happened back in the spring. Now he's not gotten off to a good start this year, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed watching him struggle, but yeah.
Tennessee fans have. I've kind of just been like,
they seem to have unlocked something with him last week. Maybe that was a 1-week thing. Maybe it was a flash in the pan. And that game is at noon, going up against a lot of big games this weekend, but I will at least...
Michigan State, am I right about that?
Michigan State, that's right. Big Ten Network. I will at least make an effort to watch maybe a drive
flip over
to see if UCLA is, and that's a bad Michigan State team. So if they can do that to Penn State, they should be able to do the same thing to Michigan State. I'll make an effort to at least watch a little bit of it.
Okay, all right. At least you'll be scoreboard watching.
Yes.
Throughout
if you look down, it's 3 minutes to go until halftime, and they're up 35-0. It's like, okay, all right, we might be onto something here.
Yeah. So there's that. We got another texter here, and Josh, what do you think about this? He goes, Mark Stoops to North Carolina. Get his 8 to 10 wins a year. When North Carolina joins the Big Ten or the SEC, he retires. Just seems like something that could happen.
It's not impossible. I feel like, because look, Stoops has got a good gig right now. Now, if he doesn't win any more games this year, he could very well be out on his butt. I feel like that's because, North Carolina, I feel like they want to make a splash hire, right? Somebody that's really going to excite the fan base to get people to buy in, like Bill Belichick did this offseason. I don't know if Stoops does that. We talked about Stoops being underwhelming when he was being floated out there for A&M, right?
Yeah.
For one, we didn't see why they wanted him as the head coach, but that's not an exciting hire. That's not something that a Tar Heel fan says, oh my God, we got Stoops. I can't wait. It's pretty underwhelming.
I'll be interested to see if they go a route that's a more low-key hire.
Maybe.
To stay out of the, and I use it, you say A&M. Well, A&M then went with Mike Elko, and Mike Elko wasn't a splash hire, but I thought Mike Elko was a great fit for A&M because he is low-key, and he's going to coach defense. A&M's going to have no problem recruiting. Kids are going to flock to A&M. North Carolina's not going to be A&M with recruiting, but they're not going to have a problem recruiting. You and I could go up there and recruit top 20 classes at North Carolina just because of the name brand, apparently the baby blue color and the Jumpman logo. But the recruiting will kind of handle itself. Now, John Summerall is the name that they want, but I don't know if there's another name that'll pop up that is in particular to them that they might get. Again, I fully believe that this North Carolina job will be open when we get to November, and it will definitely be a job, be a place where the January transfer portal, they'll be active. And we'll see what happens with it. So very interesting there. We'll come back. Hour 3 on the way. Availability reports, LSU quarterback situations, and more. It's the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder, and First Palmetto Bank. Here we are in October, and while you're thinking maybe ahead to Christmas shopping, maybe you're thinking ahead to what plans for 2026, one of the plans you might be thinking ahead to is, what do you want to do with your home? You might notice interest rates are starting to stabilize a little bit. Maybe they're working in your favor, and you've been thinking about refinancing your home, saving a little bit of money, lowering that mortgage payment. It's always a good idea, but the best idea is to call Jacob Crowder first and see what is available. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. Find out for yourself why he is known as the Mortgage Guru. It's because of the things he can do, the options he can offer. With First Palmetto Bank, locally owned and operated, he has quick and precise underwriting from local decision makers. So call Jacob Crowder today, 803-719-1005. One more hour. And then it's time for a little Thursday party. Party hardy with both hands and get into the weekend. Another fun college football weekend, a fun Major League Baseball playoff weekend. It'll be another big NFL weekend. You got a lot going. If you want to get into the NHL, that's taking place. So many sports. Tyler calls it the best sports month of the year. I push back. I go November.
November's good.
I go November. No, it's good. No, I push on you. I'm telling you.
Okay.
We're going to turn this into an ESPN show. I'm going to yell at you. No, it's the best month in November.
Yeah. In November, you obviously get college basketball starting. NBA, NHL will be in full swing at that point in time. I think the element of playoff baseball heightens it so much for me because, again, you're crowning a champion. And I think Major League Baseball maybe has the best postseason overall because it's quick, it's fast, boom, boom, boom. The one thing that bothers me about the NBA is their playoffs take 8 months to finish, and the momentum kind of gets stalled. Baseball, it's one after the other, and in a month you've crowned a champion.
I'll admit, again, I've said this to you a couple times, and even I'm kind of like the way I'm kind of living my life right now. I'm watching even more sport. Like, it's kind of amazing. I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know there was another level to watching sports. And you're right. I've noticed the way the baseball does the play. Like, we're playing. We're playing. Let's go. We're getting these games in, and we're moving on to the next round. The next round starts on Sunday. We're playing and we're moving. We're playing and we're moving. We're not sitting still. You get a one-day travel, and let's get the pitchers back out there. And I'm with you. That has made it even more enjoyable. You're not playing on a Monday and then wait until a Wednesday to play game 2 and then wait until a Saturday to play game 2. I'm with you. And you're right, the NBA, and I like the NBA playoffs. Sure. The NBA playoffs are fun, and then you lose track of what's going on because you're like, wait, didn't we start this like 2 months ago?
Yeah, and you'll have a situation like, all right, game 1's on Friday night. And it's like, okay, well, game 2's on Monday. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of lose the momentum. And I get it. Baseball's designed to play 3-game series on back-to-back days. Teams travel all over the place. So it's nothing new to do it for the final month. And basketball's a little bit different. But, like, again, baseball has, when the momentum gets rolling, it carries all the way through the whole month. It's a lot of fun. And, again, we're getting into the thick of conference play in college football. NFL's, you really, by this point in the NFL season, know who teams are. It's like, all right, okay, so the Eagles and the Bills and, the Colts and the Lions, like, those are your top teams. And the teams that are struggling, the Saints and the Jets. Like, you get an idea of who everybody is a month into the season, so you kind of know what to expect going into just about every single game.
The ALCS championship will start on Sunday of this weekend. Obviously, they will be in Toronto for that, and then on Monday night, going back to it, will be the NLCS game 1, and kind of to your point, ALCS game 1 on Sunday night, game 2 on Monday.
You get something every single day, back to back, boom, 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 and depending on how long the series goes, and then boom, you're in the World Series finals, and hopefully. But for both the teams that I have picked, they're still alive. So still hoping for Seattle and LA to match up. So we'll see.
I feel good. I'm pulling for you. I'm not pulling it. Then if we get a Mariners-Toronto on Sunday, hopefully we'll know we might have to have a little bit of a wager for that series. We'll figure it out. We'll figure something out here. Might have to text over the weekend and then relay back on Monday. Let me ask you, last night, Toronto knocks off New York. Now, this is the other part of this. You've got the wild card series. We're in the divisional series now. Well, then we go to the championship series. So 4 total rounds of playoffs. You got those 3, then you got the World Series. What is the level of celebration prior to the championship series? I was curious on this.
I think it was one of the days that I filled in for you with Preston over the summer. We were talking about like the ridiculous goggles that everybody wears now that's become like the celebration thing. And I feel like we have expanded out the means for celebrating a little too much. When you win the pennant and go to the World Series, absolutely.
Right.
Celebrate. It's accomplishment. You're the best team.
Well, when you clinch in the regular season, right?
You clinch in the regular season, okay, that's fine. I think the Yankees getting a wild card spot was maybe a little too big of a celebration.
I'm okay. I'm okay with it because I'm okay because it's 162 games.
Okay,
you feel like you've got this left. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I feel like not everything has to be celebrated. So yes, transitioning from the wild card to the divisional or the divisional to the AL to the CS, maybe we don't need to spray champagne in the locker room for that one.
Did you see the Blue Jays last night?
I did. Yeah, they were.
Were you thinking that was over the top too?
A little bit. I did think it was funny with Ortiz and Vladdy Jr. talking about the Yankees losing. That was funny.
Yeah, they were having a good time.
They kept cutting to Jeter and him being embarrassed. But Yeah, transition. It'd be kind of like in the college football playoff, right? Now that we have multiple rounds, in the quarterfinals and semifinals, you are winning a bowl game. You are being presented a trophy of a game that's existed for, in some cases, 100-plus years. There is a level of celebration with that. If you win a first-round game just to get to the quarterfinals, we don't need champagne in the locker room. And again, it's college football, so you wouldn't have that anyway. But, that's more of a transition victory as it is like a landmark monumental win. And I feel I feel the same way of when you're going from the wild card to the divisional and the divisional to the championship. Again, you win the championship, great. Celebrate that. You're going to the World Series, especially for teams that maybe not have been there in a very long time or ever before. That's cool. But I think Toronto maybe celebrated too much last night.
If you didn't see it, it was like they won the World Series last night. They had, and I didn't know if it was because they won the divisional series, if it was because they beat the Yankees, which, I'm a Yankees fan, but I mean, they kind of whipped up on the Yankees all season long, and it was kind of one of those things. I mean, they're in there, it looked like, and look, I'm one of those people that's kind of like Shane Beamer. When you win a game, celebrate. There's so much effort and work that's put into winning, whether it's a college basketball or football game, whether it's a major league, divisional, so not a major league baseball game, because there's 162 of those. But, win a game, you enjoy it, you celebrate. Yeah. Last night, they're pouring Budweiser on people's heads. They got the goggles on in there.
I think if it involves a trophy, right? Again, if you win the pennant, you get a trophy for it. If you win a bowl game in the college ball playoff, you get a trophy for it. There's a level of celebration that comes along with being presented hardware that you don't get that in the first two rounds of the Major League Baseball postseason. So I feel like, yes, I don't know if we need to tarp the locker room off and put the ski goggles on to spray the champagne for and again, as a top seed, too, you're expected to do this to transition into the championship series.
I think it might have just been enough if they just gone in there, high-fived a little bit, done some interviews, but played New York to kind of rub it in on the Yankees. I would have been okay. I was watching that last night. I was like, my goodness. I was like, did they do something that I'm unaware of?
Yeah, and Seattle gets out of it this time around.
Let's see what they do. Let's see what the Dodgers do tonight. If the Brewers win on the right, we'll keep an eye on that. But that was last night. Again, mentioning it tonight, Dodgers and Phillies coming up in about 4 hours from now. They will be out in L.A. Dodgers up 2-1, in that series, looking to close them out. And then late tonight, you've got the Brewers and the Cubs. So get a little nap in maybe and get set for Brewers and Cubs tonight as the Brewers look to close out the Cubs. You go. What you got tonight? I'm going Brewers and I'm going Dodgers and Brewers to wrap these things up.
Yeah, I lean towards the Brewers. Again, good job last night of the Cubs to keep them at bay in those early innings, but man, they come out of the gate so strong in just about every single game that I just feel like tonight that kind of, and again, it's tough to sweep, especially in the playoffs. But I think this goes back to the Brewers tonight. 9:08,
by the way. Again, I keep thinking it's 8:08. It's even later.
And I've enjoyed the mid-afternoon stuff, right? Like yesterday, Seattle and Detroit rolled at 3:08. By the time I got home, it was third, fourth inning, whatever, and you got some afternoon baseball to take in while you're doing whatever, and it's nice. And tonight, you get an early-ish game at 6:08, but I kind of enjoy the mid to late afternoon stuff, and hopefully the game goes quickly tonight because I don't want the game to go past midnight because we do have to sleep and get up the next morning.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that tonight. Again, college football as well. NFL, Giants and Eagles tonight. Jalen Hurts and Jackson Dart getting their game on. So we got a lot going tonight here in terms of sports. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then that'll lead us into the college football weekend. And again, just looking at some of these games. And we'll have Brian Edwards on tomorrow to talk about all the big games and what we expect. But you look at that noon slate, Ohio State, Illinois, Alabama, Missouri. We mentioned it. Throw in UCLA, Michigan State. Now, Michigan State, by the way, a 7.5-point favorite in that game. Those three, plus Pittsburgh and Florida State. Can Florida State bounce back? It's going to be a nice little early slate.
Yeah, it is. A lot of fun games. Alabama, Missouri in there as well. Huge matchup there in the SEC, especially for Missouri and trying to get some respect, I feel like, that they have not quite earned from a lot of people as of yet. So later on in the day, you got Oregon and Indiana. Of course, they're going to be locked in on Carolina and LSU for the nightcap, but Georgia and Auburn play at 7:30 on Saturday night. So you get a little bit of everything in just about every single window. Arizona State playing a late game, Arizona as well. and BYU in the late window there on Saturday. So you get a little bit of something in every window on Saturday.
Yeah, your 3:30 window, very solid as well. Indiana and Oregon. Obviously, CBS, Oklahoma and Texas on ABC. John Mateer coming out last night with questionable on the availability report. He's playing.
He's going to play.
He's playing. He's playing. That line's still 1.5 for Oklahoma. A couple sneaky, maybe good games. Virginia Tech at Georgia Tech. I think we're watching Georgia Tech now every week going, are you legitimate? Like, do we have to pay attention to you?
Don't look now. Virginia Tech's actually played better since they fired Brent Pry. So not a team to completely overlook.
NC State travels to Notre Dame. That one, NC State, their loss to Virginia Tech, people up there are not happy. Dave Dorn, I assume, is safe.
The thing with Notre Dame now, because they have to be perfect the rest of the way. Right. They got to end the season 10-2.
And they need help, too. They need some teams to win games to look better.
In games like this where you're taking on an NC State team that has had its struggles this year, you got to beat them by a lot. Like, you can't just beat them like 20-17. You have to beat them comfortably to give yourself some form of style points. People look back like, oh, wow, look at them murdering teams they're supposed to murder.
That'll be, you got to do something where we're like, wow, that offense is potent.
Yes.
Man, they're fun to watch. Yeah.
They destroyed Arkansas a couple weeks ago. Like that, not a great Arkansas team, but that looks good, right? Because that's the way you're supposed to beat those teams.
Also in that 3:30 window, Iowa State and Colorado as well. The night slate, Tyler kind of mentioned it, starting at 7 o'clock, Florida, Texas A&M. That should be really interesting out in College Station.
I have morbid curiosity about that one. Like, is Billy right back on the hot seat after that game?
That feels set perfectly for A&M to be up 21-0 by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, and I'll
like you're watching, you're getting set for the Carolina game. Maybe you're kind of catching the end of Arkansas, Tennessee, or something. And you're like, all right, let me flip over and catch Texas A&M, Florida. You cut over, and there's a minute and a half left, and Florida's got the ball after an A&M score, and it's 21-0, and they're panning to Billy Napier, who looks lost.
And you realize that Lagway's already thrown 3 picks in the game or something like that.
Yeah. The night slate again: Florida, Texas A&M, Georgia, Auburn. That old rivalry is going to be a lot of fun. Michigan, Southern Cal, and a great logo game. Michigan is number 15 in the country. Clemson and Boston College as well. Of course, South Carolina and LSU, and as Tyler mentioned, BYU and Arizona at 8 o'clock. And then the very late game, if you're done with all your football, done with your day, Arizona State and Utah, that one at Rice-Eccles out in Salt Lake City at 10:15 on ESPN. And then if you're really a degenerate, 10:30, San Diego State and Nevada can keep you up and involved. And if you have a problem, Utah State and Hawaii at midnight.
I was going to ask if we had a Hawaii late kick.
Got a Hawaiier.
Is that on some obscure app I have to download?
Yeah, it's not listed as a television channel, not even ESPN Plus. So, you got to find that one. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We will tell you about the availability report from South Carolina last night, and we'll break that down and get back into South Carolina LSU. You're listening to The Halftime Show. 2:19 on your Thursday, getting you ready for some Major League Baseball, some college football, some NFL football. It's going to be a glorious little night, and then we will return tomorrow and get you all set for South Carolina LSU. We're going to talk about availability reports coming up here in just a second. But tomorrow on the program, Chris Deering will join us.
Yep.
Another great week of high school highlights to be discussed. And also Brian Edwards will be joining us from Vegas Insider and Major Wager to give us his picks for the week and break down some of the big football games taking place on Saturday. Availability report. Oh, good. We get availability reports. Oh, boy, how good. Because we believe these things, right? Like,
Well, the coaches aren't going to tell us anything anymore, so this is all we have.
what did you make of last night's? What did you get? I tell you what, I'm sorry. Let me backtrack as if everybody, I act like everybody's like us and has seen it and knows exactly what's out there. What do you got so far?
So right now, as of last night, Marky Anderson is out. Doubtful is Nolan Hay and Casey Henry. Questionable is Miles Norwood, Judge Collier, and Troy Pikes. All those guys on defense. Marky Anderson makes total sense. You could see that he was in some pain when he came out of the Kentucky game a couple weeks ago. Casey Henry and Nolan Hay kind of checks out with those guys not being available in the last game. I think they were both out going into the Kentucky game, now 2 weeks ago. Judge Collier, he was off the injury report by the time the Kentucky game rolled around. And he was, I don't even remember what his snap count was in that game. It was very limited. They obviously didn't need him to win that game. So you felt like, all right, playing him safe. By the time the LSU game rolls around, he'll be good to go, and you're obviously going to need him to combat the receiving core that they have. So concerning that he's back on the questionable list. Miles Norwood, that kind of came out of nowhere because he was the backup for Judge Collier playing that other corner spot. So what's kind of going on there? And then Troy Pikes, who has rotated in a little bit, but hasn't been made a huge impact on the defensive line. Don't know what's going on with him either. And again, I don't know. Beamer's probably not going to say much about it tonight on the
got a foot
on the
got a knee.
Tell us the general area of the body that's hurting him, but we don't know the full details of what's ailing them. And again, for Collier, who we thought was good, ready to go, why is he now back on the report again?
But the thing with Collier is, remember, and I don't know how to phrase this to be fair to all the parties involved, including Shane Beamer, because I have no problem. I really have no problem with how Will Muschamp or Shane Beamer had handled injuries. The funniest one, this is when I changed my tune on this. This is still the funniest thing is when I went to a press conference way back in the day. When I first started here, I would have to go do the press conferences over at the facility, do the morning show, and then go over there, and we'd broadcast from there. And I'm in the parking lot, and Zach Bailey is out in the parking lot with a cast on his ankle and on a scooter.
Yeah.
And you see him, and we do what we all do. We make mental note. And we're like, oh, that's not good. It's the Gamecocks' best offensive lineman.
Probably implies he's not playing.
All right, that's okay. I've had a cast on before. When you have a cast, it normally equals serious injury. And so we go in, and we listen to Will Muschamp, and Will Muschamp's like, oh, yeah, he's day to day. Zach Bailey's day to day. And in my mind, because I'm naive and I'm gullible and I like to believe the best in people, and I'm like, well, I guess, realistically speaking, they could put a cast on Sunday and they could cut it off on Thursday. Maybe that makes more sense. And Zach Bailey was out for like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
People forget in the COVID year, Xavier Legette got hurt in preseason practice, but was on the depth chart as a starter all season, and we didn't find out he'd been out for the season until Will Muschamp got fired, and Mike Bobo's first press conference was like, oh, no, he's been out for the year.
Yeah, I heard Muschamp didn't update the depth chart. Now,
no.
like Beamer's is always a week behind, but it does change throughout the year.
And I'm okay. I say this because I'm okay with the injury. I'm owed nothing. We are owed nothing with the injury report.
Sure.
But it brings me back to the Judge Collier situation, because you talk to people and you hear things. And when Collier got hurt against Virginia Tech, the initial word that I got was, well, he's probably not back till LSU. It's going to take that long to get him back. He's not back till LSU. They're like, the good news is it's not a season-ending injury. But yet we get every week, oh, he's probably, what is it? He's a game-time decision, basically.
Yeah.
He could play.
Sure.
He wasn't playing.
No.
He wasn't playing. And then you put him back out there. So I'm starting to look at these things. And, again, I'm not blaming Shane Beamer on this. And the reason I say that is because all the coaches do this. He's not the only one. But you're right. I look at these questionable and it's not, look, did Miles Norwood pull a hammy during practice last week? Potentially. Did Troy Pikes, look, you're practicing, did he get an ankle rolled up on?
Maybe.
Possibly.
We don't know.
I get it. But, yeah, we have no clue. But the Judge Collier one is big because you're right. I think I myself yesterday was like, well, at least we know we're getting Judge Collier back, and that'll be good to have it. Jalen Kilgore missed a game and wasn't on the injury report earlier this year.
Yeah, so you just never really know. And again, Cissé has done a really good job on that other side. And again, you don't fault Miles Norwood or Vakari Swain because they weren't the expected starters at that other corner spot. They've done the best they could, but you think about having Cissé and Judge Collier hopefully at full health for this game this weekend, you feel like you have a good chance containing what's a very talented group of receivers that LSU is going to bring to the table, and especially if you're going to be down Collier and his backup Miles Norwood. Okay, now you're getting into what DeMarcus Leach is your fourth option there that's played a little bit this year.
Is he the one? Well, one of them had a separated shoulder a couple weeks ago and popped back up. Was it Holloman or Leach?
I honestly
think
don't
it was
remember.
Leach. I think it was Leach. One of them got hurt.
Yeah.
It was playing, I think, against Kentucky and got hurt and I can't remember. Somebody got hurt, and it really kind of was one of those things because I hate to say it, so far down the depth chart or whatever. We kind of all just shrugged it off. We didn't say it, but I remember it in the game and then seeing him late on the sideline in a sling.
You've played 9 different cornerbacks so far this year, and a lot of those guys are rotating in at that spot that Collier had left open. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would very much hope that he is not on the report tonight and he's ready to go because again, questionable. We kind of break it down into those 25% where if you're out, well, there's a 0% chance you're playing. If you're doubtful, it's like a 25% chance. Questionable's 50-50, probable's 75, and then if you're off the report, you're good to go. So I hope he makes his way to, at the very least, probable. That way we're moving in the right direction.
The serious part of this is the offensive linemen, Nolan Hay and Cason Henry. Now, this goes back with Cason Henry. We are owed nothing. Okay, let me be very clear about that. I am not upset with Shane Beamer for not telling us, but he has a shoulder injury.
Yes.
Is it a significant shoulder? I just wonder because we're trying to figure out this offensive line. Like, is Cason Henry out for weeks? Is this one of the things where he's not out?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to say it, when you go on the out list for South Carolina, you probably means you ain't coming back.
Yeah, that's kind of the
you gone
common trend. So we might not see Marquis Anderson for the rest of the year.
Unfortunately, he's probably done. But like I said, I just wonder because we're gonna have questions on Saturday night. If that offensive line's getting beat,
sure.
And there's people who also be like, well, Babalade could supposedly slide inside. What if he's one of your better guards and you got Henry at tackle? You got to find 5 that know how to block, that can block somebody.
You do. And again, you started really experimenting in the Missouri game because Boaz Stanley was having a rough go at center. And then he had a rough go at right guard, I think is where they put him at. And now he's kind of seems to have being removed from the rotation, right? So now you're kind of coming up with this other, starting 5. And if you go with what you had last time, going from left to right, you had Josiah Thompson, Shed Surratt, Newsome at center, Tro at right guard, and then Tree at right tackle. Shivers played a little bit as well, so you could still roll that unit out there. Is that the best unit you have? Is that going to give you the best opportunity? We don't know. Now, again, you went up against a not great Kentucky team, so I don't know how much you take away from what you did in that game as like, okay, yeah, this is the unit that we like, and you still couldn't really run the ball that effectively with your running back, save for that last drive with Matthew Fuller. So I don't know, but having that amount of injuries on your O-line is concerning.
It happens. It happens. I mean, what we got 3. Is that am I missing anybody else? We mentioned, and look, Hay is. He comes in, he's a transfer, he's slightly undersized. They actually had run him out there in, I believe, the Vanderbilt game or the South Carolina State game.
I think he took some snaps late in the Vandy game.
But one of them he was going in when it mattered, but playing kind of a tight end position.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of a versatile guy. It did look like when Nolan Hay was out there that the offensive line came together a little bit, but we didn't get a very long sample size to draw from. Yeah.
Right. And then you're shifting things around again. So, again, it's very reminiscent of where you were at 2 years ago where every week was a new combination and, well, maybe this guy will come back. Maybe that guy will come back. And just you hope this is not the story we're following the entire season, but halfway through the year, it looks like it might be.
803-404-61. We'll come back, let you hear a little bit from Mike Shula and Clayton White yesterday. Tyler will revisit the quarterback conversation and tell you one player that you might not know about for LSU, but you might want to know about. He could play a little bit of a role on Saturday night. You're listening to the Halftime Show. All right. Things crack me up, and I'll share them with you, and it can make you laugh or not too. I'm reading. I jumped on the Big Spur for a second here. Just I do it during the show sometimes just to see if something's happened.
Sure.
We got to be more. 12 to 3. I got to be more alert than 6 to 9.
Yeah, I skim Twitter a couple times an hour to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I've got Twitter up, and normally I'll hit up on. I'll refresh Big Spur, and I'll refresh Gamecock Central just to make sure we're not missing a commitment or something crazy happening. Or I mean, Tuesday, Tyler, we wrapped up the show, and it was literally the show ended, and in our change out is when I looked down and noticed Michael Smith hit transferred, and maybe if I'd have hit refresh a little bit.
And Monday at like 3 o'clock is when they announced the cancellation of the Miami series.
Good point,
so twice this week as we were leaving the studio, things were happening.
So sometimes, like I said, 6 to 9, I never had. Only time I really had to worry about was if Scotty Scheffler was getting arrested.
That's true. You guys got to play that one as it happened.
We were having to verify information to make sure we weren't being punked on that one. So I say that because Hal McGranahan is going to cover the game, and we've sent Elijah.
Yep.
Now you have covered games at Williams-Brice.
Yes.
You've been up in the press box.
I have.
And you mentioned you brought it up last week. Was it last week or 2 weeks? Last week.
Yeah,
Last game. That they booted somebody out for cheering in there.
Right.
Some bowl representatives. So you get these things. So you know about this. So sometimes you get an email about a few reminders, like about the game, right? So Hal McGranahan has posted that LSU has sent out just a few reminders to the media covering the game. So I'm guessing that Elijah's got this email too. And I'm just going to read the one that just has me laughing off air because do with this what you will. Now, this is LSU. This is not from South Carolina. Let me be point blank clear about this. This is not from South Carolina. This is LSU and really more to the LSU media, I think, but maybe to the opposing team media. Nugget 2 on here, or reminder on number 2 here is reading it verbatim. For Saturday's game, there was an excessive amount of cheerleader pictures taken by sideline photographers during the Florida game. There was a reminder to focus on shooting pictures of the game, not the cheerleaders.
Wow. Well, sometimes they get in the way when you're trying to take a shot of the field.
Bunch of dirty, dirty old men down there in Baton Rouge just taking pictures of cheerleaders, and maybe they think South Carolina fans, or South Carolina media is coming down there to snap up pictures of the LSU cheerleaders. I've never seen. I used to get these emails. I don't get them. I have never seen that in my life before.
That's certainly a new one. I don't. Whoever that is knows who they are, right? That is probably
we've got you identified.
That is probably made for one person who knows who they are. And now everybody else within the LSU media contingent is going to say, who do you think that is? Oh, it's so-and-so. It was definitely him. I saw him, the way he was standing and where he was positioned. No way he was getting good shots of the field.
An excessive. I like how it was phrased, an excessive amount of cheerleader pictures.
Where do we draw the line? And here's the thing, like photographers will take pictures of everything happening in the stadium, recruits sitting in the stands,
right.
Fans, kids waving to the camera or whatever, the mascot, there's going to be.
You try to capture everything.
Right. There's going to be some photos of the cheerleaders leading the crowd and all that kind of stuff. But where do we draw the line at excessive? At what point is the person going through these photos saying, all right, this is too much?
Anyway. All right. Well, if you're going
to that person, you know who you are.
If one of y'all is listening out down there, coming in and going down there, I don't know, Katie Dugans. I don't know if she's going with. I think she's with. I can't remember which one she's with, Gamecock Central or Big Spur. Any of the photographers that are with the websites, please. No pictures of the LSU cheerleaders.
Here's the funny thing. I bet if you asked the cheerleaders who they think it was, they could tell you. Like, oh, that guy.
Oh, yeah, they recognize dirty old men in a heartbeat.
He was standing next to us the entire game. Never once pointed his camera at the field.
Felt completely uncomfortable. Yeah, it's...
No, I was trying to get a shot of Nussmeier throwing, and the cheerleaders kept getting in the way. It was the weirdest thing. Well, why don't you move yourself?
Jesus. All right. Well, there's that for Saturday. We'll monitor that.
That is funny.
Keep up with. Is Jack going down there?
Yes, he's flying out tomorrow.
Okay, so
I'll text and be like, hey, no pictures of the LSU cheerleaders. Please,
yeah. We're sending the young guys down there. That's great. We aren't sending dirty old men. We're sending young, dirty guys.
Young guys in committed relationships.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know that. I don't pry into other people's lives. 803-404. 6,100. There's something for you today. We talked earlier in the show about LSU, and Tyler has a name that you might want to know about on Saturday night as it pertains to the quarterback position.
Yeah, we had Hunt Palmer from ESPN Baton Rouge on earlier on this morning, and I asked him because Kelly spoke about it earlier on this week with Nussmeier not being fully healthy and the lack of a run game. Could Michael Van Buren Jr., the former quarterback from Mississippi State that transferred in this year, could he be somebody that takes the field to, if nothing else, give you a different look at quarterback and maybe spark the run game a little bit? And he said probably not, but he did bring up somebody that is interesting, and that is Juwan Johnson, who is started off as a DB, has transitioned over to running back, and was a very successful quarterback in the state of Louisiana prior to coming to LSU, and somebody that does have the ability to run, that he said if there was going to be anybody they gave a different look to, because Brian Kelly says he doesn't want to take Nussmeier off the field, but let's say you bring him in and maybe you split Nussmeier out wide and give a wildcat look. He did say Juwan Johnson is a name that you could see short yardage, goal line situations that might get the ball in his hands to do something a little bit different and maybe try and spark the run game a little bit.
Yeah, and by the way, going back to the availability report, one name on there for LSU. Now, he was on the, I think, probable list. Was Caden Durham.
Yeah, he's been banged up this year.
And he kind of had his coming out party last year in the LSU game. We'll get back into the LSU game from last year tomorrow and kind of revisit that.
Yeah, rip the Band-Aid back off again.
Yeah, we'll have a little Friday therapy. Normally Friday's got a happy hour involved, so after we get done talking about it, you'll feel a little bit better. But Caden Durham was on there. So I do see, and I agree with you there in terms of you look at Michael Van Buren. Now, if he comes in, you got to know you got to have an idea of what may be about to occur here. Maybe you walk guys down into the box. Don't get caught off guard and be standing there with a 5-man box with this guy in there.
Yeah, and the reason why it's been brought up is because Nussmeier last week didn't really practice because he's dealing with the oblique strain and, was doing like some VR stuff. So he was still involved, but not out there on the field actually taking reps. And Michael Van Buren took pretty much all the first-team reps last week. So, and Kelly talked about how much he was pleased with how comfortable he was getting in a role like that. So the opportunity to play him is there. Don't know if we're going to see it or not, but it would certainly behoove LSU to do something different than what you've been doing, which is trying to run the ball and it's not working. So having a guy out there that offers you a different look, and if nothing else, we know this from Sellers' ability, when you have a quarterback that can run the football, let's say you're running an RPO, and the defense, if you have a statue of a quarterback like Nussmeier, knows, hey, that guy's not going to take off with it. That running back's going to get the ball. Let's key on him. When you have the element of a quarterback that can take off with it, now you have to make a choice. And that's where good quarterbacks that can make those decisions between keeping it, handing it off, can throw the defense for a loop and give you something different on offense. Not saying it's going to happen, but that presents an opportunity for you.
Was the Sellers long run last year? I'm blanking on it. Was the Sellers long touchdown run as a read, or was it a straight? It was a read, right?
I think it was. Let me pull it back up. I think you're right. Let me see.
As you say all that right there, I'm just thinking because, look, there's no doubt South Carolina's got to take advantage of Lenore Sellers' legs even more so than they have in the first 5 games on Saturday night. And you go back to last year, Dow Loggins seemed to have a pretty good game plan for how to attack LSU. And that was the first game we saw Lenore Sellers really start to break out. Also the first game we played without the goggles, by the way.
That's right.
But, yeah, you wonder if that's something that Mike Shula's been able to watch and maybe go back and be able to add to his repertoire.
So it was a read with Jared Brown coming across the formation. But so it was a read.
Okay. All right. Yep. So, but that's a good point. But there's Michael Van Buren again, a guy. Look, that's the thing about Nussmeier's your old school. It's not that Garrett Nussmeier's really good at buying time in the pocket.
Yes.
He knows how to move his feet, move left, right, up, back. But he's not going to break out a 15-yard run on you. Now, that doesn't mean that 3rd and 9, you just go man-to-man and you all turn your back to. Because I want to say he had a run last year on a pivotal 3rd down where he picked up a first down, but he's not going to be a guy who finishes the game. He shouldn't finish the game with more than 30 yards rushing.
He's very much like Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler's MO was not to take off and run the ball, but if you gave him a ton of green grass and he felt like he could get there safely, he would. So, yes, if you just give Nussmeier wide open lanes to run through on a 3rd and long or something like that, then, yeah, he'll take that opportunity. Maybe not as quickly now because he's dealing with an injury, but still, if you give him lanes to run through, he can still do that. So you can't just completely say he's not going to take off, but less of a threat than, say, what Michael Van Buren or Juwan Johnson would be if they get the ball in their hands.
We'll come back and wrap everything up. Little note here, and I'll let Tyler get into it because I see he has tweeted about it. LSU is at the forefront of maybe making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
We'll let Tyler explain that, and we'll wrap up the Thursday program. It is the halftime show. I just want to confirm. I just want to confirm, Dave, you were not on the sideline at the LSU game, Florida game, right? I just want us all to. I just want to make sure there's no implications here.
Dave wouldn't do that, right, Dave?
I can see why you might think that I might be there.
Reputation precedes oneself.
He's not shying away from it. So there's that.
He didn't say no.
More
He didn't say
dance
no.
team type person.
Huh?
I usually like dance team.
Dance. Okay, dance.
Yeah,
Dave's a dance team over cheerleaders.
You weren't here. Were you here back yet when he ran into the Vanderbilt dance team walking around in the Vista?
Social media is for everybody to see. If you put something out there, it doesn't just go to your friends.
Oh,
I
really?
saw it. I forget what it was though. I forget if I saw it on Twitter or Facebook for you. I forget.
Well, it was advanced scouting. He was getting a good detailed report
How'd that
on
go
Vandy.
for us?
I wanted to see if they had any insight into the Vandy quarterback.
Well, whatever your insight was didn't work,
So
unfortunately.
if I get us a dance team member in here, that'd make you happy.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't
Okay.
make him sad.
All right. We'll see if we can get Miss Emmy Staten in here. She's been part of these national championship dance teams. We'll see. Is that good? We'll see if we can get Emmy in here, Emmy Staten, and she'll give us a breakdown on the dance team, break everything down for Captain Dave there. 803-404-6100. No confirmation whether Dave was or was not in LSU for the Florida game and as part of the taking pictures of cheerleaders on the sidelines. That's seriously one of the. By the way, there's another thing on there, but it's not as funny.
Yeah.
And it says, let me just go back to reading this. Folks are encouraged to not wear. Encouraged, by the way, not. It's not banned. Folks are encouraged to not wear a jersey if they're a photographer shooting from the sidelines.
Yeah, it's kind of journalism 101 that you're not supposed to.
That's why I don't go in the press box.
Yeah,
I'm not lying. I covered the South Carolina Mississippi game in 2009, and it was not enjoyable. I don't cover games.
The kind of rule of thumb is don't even wear a logo.
Right.
So even if you're reporting on Carolina, wearing like a Gamecock polo shirt is typically frowned upon. You know, that's what they kind of teach you. So yes, wearing a jersey, even being a photographer on the sidelines, is typically going to be seen as a no-no.
Yeah, I take it back. The last time I was in the press box, last time I sat in a press box, and I did it specifically for the food, was I believe it was the 2017 Outback Bowl. South Carolina beat Michigan. 2017, 2018, whatever year it was. It was the Outback Bowl, and I sat up there with Heath Klein.
Yeah.
And we were getting, Outback. They bring you around Outback food throughout the day. That was why I sat there down in Tampa at Raymond James.
Sounds pretty good.
All right, real quick before we wrap everything up, LSU getting out of the forefront of a little money-making venture.
Yeah, David Rumsey, who covers college football for Front Office Sports, posted a little while ago that LSU is getting in on the jersey patch business. The NCAA is expected to approve the move to allow this for 2026 coming up here very, very soon. And according to him, they have already signed a multi-million-dollar deal. Don't know who it is, but they're ready to do this in 2026 as soon as the NCAA gives it a thumbs up. We already have the on-the-field advertisements, and we kind of all figured jersey patches are probably next, and it seems like it's definitely going to go that way.
Who do we want as a jersey patch?
Oh, man.
Well, let's start with this.
Sure.
We got to work this down, and we don't have much time. But do we go local or national? Do you go with like a national, like a Buc-ee's?
Well, look.
You see what I'm saying? I'm going to just use a Buc-ee's as a.
Because, I mean, it sounds like it's going to cost millions upon millions of dollars, so you have to have the funds to do this. And the real estate on an SEC football uniform is probably pretty pricey. I don't know. A lot of options out there.
Do you go local? Local around here, like say a Village Idiot Pizza, a little small,
Sure.
Or do you go big time? Do you go like national brand again? Like you've got a Buc-ee's hat on, right?
I do have a Buc-ee's hat on.
Okay.
Big fan.
I thought I saw that earlier. I was like, all right.
Buc-ee's Firehouse Subs, perhaps, where they're national.
Firehouse Subs?
They're national, but
I guess they are.
we have the local tie here as well.
That's what I was thinking, more of the local.
So, you can kind of work the local angle there. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see who LSU is doing this with. And, again, this is going to start the steamroll. Just like the on-field stuff, once one team does it, everybody's going to do it.
Well, and this now, listen, in my opinion, this goes back to the canceling of football. It ties in also to canceling of football games because to do the jersey patch, you're bringing in non-traditional revenue.
Right.
And you're going to need that non-traditional revenue to offset whatever you're having to pay players with revenue sharing. South Carolina is obviously doing the big investment in the football stadium.